Hi, my name is Mark and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm taking you with me on a 2-week tour of Purcell's opera Dido and Aeneas. When I'm not here in my crafting room working on projects or talking about fiber with all of you, I spend my time as a professional musician. So we're going on tour for 2 weeks doing 7 performances of this opera, and I want to take you along for a lot of the behind the scenes and to see what I'm working on during these 2 weeks of my life. So if you're interested in hearing a little bit of the music, getting an update on some of my projects, or just spending some time together, then stick around and let's get into it. All right, first things first. Looking at myself here in the monitor, I'm wearing my black sort of Halloween sweater, my painting bricks from Stephen West, but under it I'm wearing a navy shirt. And I don't think I've ever paired these two together. And I looked at myself and I thought, I'm wearing black and blue, looking like a bruise. So not ideal, but not a big enough deal for me to go change. So here we are. I wanted to acknowledge that. Black and blue in honor of Halloween, coming up as I sit to film this. So first things first, after all of that, if you're new here, my name is Mark, and when I'm not sitting and crafting here in this space or talking about fiber with all of you, I'm spending my time working as a professional musician. I work mostly as a singer, as a tenor, and every once in a while I'm hired to do some work as a pianist or a collaborative pianist. So that's what's going on for this video. I just finished a 2-week tour with Apollo's Fire, the Baroque Orchestra in Cleveland, Ohio, performing Purcell's opera Dido and Aeneas. Now, my husband Ned played the role of Aeneas, and some of our great friends filled out the rest of the cast. I was there as a chorus member and a featured Baroque dancer. So this was a really fun production to be part of, both because it was musically fulfilling, but also because we were working with a lot of our favorite people, our best friends, our favorite colleagues, tremendously skilled musicians all across the board. So you'll get to hear some of that music, some clips here and there throughout this video, and you can go down a rabbit hole looking for more recordings if you search Apollo's Fire here on YouTube. So let's get started with the preparation for this project and what I needed to do on my end to get ready. Whenever I'm hired for any sort of music contract, the first thing I need to do is to learn my music. Typically, these projects are done on a pretty tight timeline, so people will be flown all around the world or all around the country to gather together for just a few days of rehearsal time, and then several performances or a recording or a tour, whatever's going to happen with that project. So everybody learns their music before they arrive. So for me, it meant digging through this score. We had a couple of other pieces on the program, so I needed to make sure I learned all my music, that I'd actually practiced singing it, and there was some stuff to memorize because this was a semi-staged opera production. So certain scenes with movement or a lot of extra drama would be done from memory, and then the rest would be done sort of oratorio concert style, where the chorus at least could have music in our hands. As I sit down to do some practicing, let me show you this space. I don't think we've been here before in other videos. So we have a pretty small dining room, and we have a dining table where we like to have meals and we like to entertain occasionally. And then crammed right next to that, we have an upright piano. We have dreams in our future homes to have a little more space so that we can have our baby grand piano and a little more space to spread out for our practicing, our voice lessons, for all sorts of things that happen in our very musical household. So for now, this is our setup. And one thing that's really added to the functionality of this space is my lighting. I've got an incredible floor lamp. This is from Honeywell, and it's their Artist Daylight floor lamp. When I'm spending extended periods of time at the piano, working through passages, learning my music, getting it in my voice, preparing for recitals, whatever kind of work I have coming up, the lighting makes a big difference. It's just like in my crafting space or my filming setup, having good light, warm light, soft light, steady light makes a big difference to me. Besides the sheer amount of light that this lamp produces, it gives me no flicker lighting. So no matter how long I spend poring over my music, memorizing, preparing for an upcoming production, I get uninterrupted, focused work time with great lighting. All right, now that the preparation is done, it's time to hop into the rehearsal period for this project. I already mentioned the benefit of getting to work alongside really great friends, wonderful colleagues, but another huge plus to any project I'm doing in the musical world is that I get to do a lot of knitting. So I will always have a project with me, and I typically bring it to my seat and knit until it's time to start singing or start playing. And then as soon as we get a break, or as soon as there's some downtime, the orchestra is working or just the soloists are working, I get to work on my project. And a benefit of this specific project is that there are several crafters among the ranks. So you'll see some other crafting, some other footage from my colleagues throughout this tour and project. As we head into our dress rehearsal, let me tell you about the projects that I'm working on during this period. So the first project you saw in earlier rehearsals this week was my Oban sweater, my Oban vest from Thea Coleman of Baby Cocktails. And I've talked about this in some other videos, and I even wore it, I think, in last week's video. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. I was working on it in the round steeked. So we'll see more of that in the future when I get to post my steeking class results from a class I was taking at Around the Table Yarns in Shaker Heights, Ohio. So that was the first project that I just needed to finish up. And now at the dress rehearsal, I'm working on my Numi sweater by Sophie Ochera. This is a sweater that has been put away into timeout for various reasons and picked back up again, and I'm making slow progress. It's not a project that I'm working on every day for long stretches, but it's something I'm picking up maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks to do a little bit of progress. So hopefully it'll be something I finish in this season that I get to show you here on the channel, but that's what was keeping me company for some of these rehearsals. And now it's time for our first performance. Immediately following that first performance, we packed everything up to head to Chicago for part of our tour. And this is maybe the less glamorous side, the less enjoyable side of some of the performing I do. You have all of these people gathered from all over the world. You've put together a pretty great, exciting, sparkly performance. And so you try to find as many ways to share it with people as possible. So sometimes that means a jam-packed weekend of performances all in one area. Other times it means taking it on the road for a tour. So tours can be a lot of fun because you get to do some travel, some sightseeing, and of course you're seeing a variety of audiences. You're getting to perform whatever the piece is several times in several different places for lots of different people. So it feels different each time, and the reactions might be quite different. On the less glamorous side, it means you're getting up early, you're not in your own bed, you're living out of a suitcase, and so all of that can be exhausting and catch up with you. So we're heading to Chicago for a couple of performances over the weekend, and for this portion of the video, I'm going to invite Ned, my husband, to talk with us and share his experience, his side of things, and hopefully we'll be able to share some stories and give you more insight to what this project was like. Here's Ned.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks.
So we've made it to Chicago. Specifically, we made it to Evanston for our first concert. And this one was at the Music Institute of Chicago in Evanston. Evanston always makes me think of Mean Girls because they moved to Evanston.
That's right.
I think.
It always makes me think of Home Alone because I think the house from Home Alone is there.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
something like that.
Yeah. So the performance here was pretty straightforward. I think we had a good audience for it. And one of the things that was fun about this performance is that the audience was encouraged to participate or encouraged to react to things. So there were witches, there are evil characters, there's a lot of drama in the show. So the audience was invited to cheer for the good people, to boo and hiss. And I think this audience was maybe the first one to do some of that.
Yeah,
which was
definitely.
fun.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk with Ned about the differences of doing an opera because we're not really opera singers. We trained to do that kind of singing and we do it seldomly. But this is different from a lot of the style and process of preparing a performance. So what was it like being in a staged production?
It was really interesting. You know, I haven't done an opera in about 8 years, and I never really thought that it would be at all a part of my career. And so to even be doing one at all was it was a big undertaking for me. And I'm glad it wasn't a very large role, which was, I can't imagine if I had had any more to do than I already did. I don't know if I would have been able to keep it all together. But there's so much more that goes into it than we normally do when we get ready for a program. We obviously have to practice our music and learn it, but besides memorizing it, which is the first hurdle, there's so much more to think about with your character because you're portraying a person as opposed to just getting up and singing something that's, I don't know, from the heart or whatever. So I think that was the biggest hurdle for me was putting myself into someone else's shoes and preparing that way.
Yeah. I guess one thing that was fun and different about this is that there was dancing because of the staged portions of the opera. So we were asked to dance, which was fun.
For you.
It was fun for both of us.
I'm not a dancer. Mark has always been a very, very talented dancer. And I've always been someone who moves well, if you know your musical theater terminology. So trying to learn a dance and then do it well enough to be able to do it on stage was very daunting for me. Yeah. But it was fun. It was fun in the end.
It was fun. And that was unique for us to get to do. So all in all, I think our first Evanston performance went well. We had a good audience. It was fun. And by the time we performed, we had a little bit of a break, time for dinner at least, or time to shower and change and feel like you were more put together to go and do a performance.
Yeah.
So Saturday morning I got up and I wanted to see the beach in Evanston. I've never really taken my time to look around. We go there pretty regularly with Apollo's Fire for these tours, but it's often a very packed schedule. So this time I wanted to make sure I got to see the beach. So I picked up a bit of lunch, walked down to the water. It was really beautiful and ran into some cute dogs along the way. And then it was time for us to head into downtown Chicago for our next concert, which was at the
Chicago Cultural Center.
The Chicago Cultural Center, which was a beautiful building. Just stunning. And it's Tiffany, right? Tiffany glass?
Yeah, it's the world's largest Tiffany glass dome.
Which was incredible. Cool. So that was the space we were performing in, and you'll see it in this video footage. Pretty different, and a different type of venue for us to perform in, even with this ensemble. Typically, we're in a concert hall or a church, something where there's a straight shot for the audience to see you. There's a built-in acoustic. This was different because the space was really wide, like a ballroom, and we had audience members seated all the way across the space. And so there was a little bit of amplification, some speakers, and a little bit of miking for some of the spoken dialogue, just to make sure everybody could hear. And I don't know what the sightlines were like, but it was a different type of experience. And I think if you were going there for that concert, you probably realized that because the building itself was so unique.
Yeah, it was really gorgeous.
A really beautiful place to perform.
And a nice acoustic, too. I'm glad we had that.
Yeah, I think stuff sounded really good. Okay, so for a behind-the-scenes story, this was my favorite thing about the whole project. Purcell's opera, Dido and Aeneas, is pretty short. So when people perform it, they either do part of the program as Dido and Aeneas,
I love you.
Purcell's opera Dido and Aeneas is pretty short. So typically when people perform this work, they put it as one element on a program. So one half of the program might be the entire opera, and then the other half would have other music or another theater piece programmed. In this case, our director added other things to expand the opera. So there were other pieces from Purcell, other orchestral movements that happened as the prologue or that happened at the top of Act 3. And also there were some sea shanties. So we had the gentlemen of the chorus perform a set of 3 sea shanties, which people ate it up. You know, it was like a Celtic woman concert. So anyway, one addition that our director added was a spoken prologue to set the scene. And Purcell's opera was originally performed at a girls' school in England. So this new prologue that our director wrote set the scene with 4 women from the chorus, or 4 players from the show, introducing. So this added prologue set the scene with 4 women from the production acting as schoolgirls, welcoming you to their school. And in it, there was a line from one of our castmates about how they worked terribly hard to learn all the songs. And I'd say the prologue was kind of comedic. Like the way it was written, I kept saying it felt like Disney Channel. Like it was very over the top, very in your face. So she took this line and gave it a comedic spin, and then she ran with it. So across these 7 performances and several rehearsals, every time she would deliver it, she would give it new zing. And
more.
She had us laughing so hard. So I loved it. I'll plug some of that in here. And then later in the video, I'll plug in my supercut of, I think, 4 or 5 of the performances that I could capture.
The music to great Mr. Purcell belongs, and we've taken great pains to learn all the songs.
The chorus started in the back of the hall for each concert, and then after this added prologue, we would process in. So I did stand in the back and record this moment each night because it brought me so much joy. So I hope it brings you a little bit of joy. And I think Sophia knocked it out of the park.
Oh, absolutely.
Every time.
The music to great Mr. Purcell belongs, and we've taken great pains to learn all the songs. The music to great Mr. Purcell belongs, and we've taken great pains to learn all the songs. The music to great Mr. Purcell belongs, and we've taken great pains to learn all the songs. The music to great Mr. Purcell belongs, and we've taken great pains to learn all the songs. The music to great Mr. Purcell belongs, and we've taken great pains to learn all the songs. The word all the songs. All the songs. All the songs. All the songs. All the songs.
So the day after we finished at the Chicago Cultural Center, we actually had a day off, which was really nice and pretty rare for a project like this. So instead of going right home to Cleveland, we took the opportunity to be tourists for a day in Chicago, which was really fun. A really good friend of mine from college lives in Chicago with his family, and so they let us crash with them for the night. And we took the opportunity to go to the Art Institute of Chicago, which was really beautiful. I'd never been there before. And we also got some dim sum, which is one of our favorite things to do when we're in Chicago. There's an amazing restaurant there.
We went to this dim sum restaurant last year, I think when we were there for B minor Mass. and we went with like 7 or 8 of our friends from the ensemble, and it was great. We had like a whole feast of wonderful dishes. So
amazing.
we've talked about it ever since. And we said the next time we go to Chicago, we want to go back and get dim sum because it was so good.
Yeah.
So that wrapped up our time in Chicago. It was good to stay for an extra day, be with friends, get to be tourists, and just have a day without singing, a day to rest.
So
Because
nice.
it's valuable to do that with any project.
Yeah.
Just to have time to be quiet, time away from the material, and truly time for your instrument to recover if it needs to, or whatever the body might need. All right. Thank you, Ned.
My pleasure.
Thanks for being here. While we sat to film this, we had a million things happen. The cat and dog were chasing each other in this room like crazy. And then once they left, a few sirens had to pass. So we sat waiting for the sirens. And then the door was closed because we didn't want the cat and dog chasing each other in here. So Mabel started to bark at the door to use her voice and let us know how much she wanted to come back in and talk to all of you. So we did it.
Bye, everybody.
Great. All right. We survived Chicago. In hindsight, it was very fun. I like looking at the footage. I like the memories. But in the moment, whenever these projects are going on, the days are long because most of the rehearsals and all of the performances take place at night. So my schedule feels like it really shifts. I go from having, my evenings after work free to going straight from one type of work to other work, to rehearsals and then call times and touch-up rehearsals and concerts. And then you're not done until pretty late. And if you're driving all over the place or traveling and on a tour bus or taking a flight, it means you don't really get a lot of that time to rest or much downtime or much time to yourself. And I don't know how often I talk about it here, but I'm pretty introverted. This idea of sitting and talking to the camera is comfortable because it's just me right now. And I can imagine all of you watching, but it doesn't feel like a high pressure, social, busy, active environment. When I am in social, active environments, it really wears me out. So every day, no matter what's going on, I enjoy the bits of time I get to have to recharge by myself. If that's just 5 or 10 minutes to sit and knit, or time to come home and be alone and sit and watch something on TV, take a walk with the dog, cook something, practice something, just have time that feels still and feels kind of quiet inside my head. So on tour, even just for a weekend, it's something that part of me always dreads because I know I'm not going to have that dedicated or expected alone time to recharge. I'm going to be around people for essentially the whole 48 or 72 hours of that portion of the tour. So, in hindsight, it is really fun, and we did have a great trip to Chicago. I had fun with the performances, but in the moment, I was very tired. I felt overwhelmed and just stressed about all sorts of things. As we said, any sort of performance has stressors, whether the stressors are coming from the repertoire itself, maybe it's really challenging, there are certain things that you get nervous about, or it could come from the expectations others have of you. It could come from the person on the other side of things, whether it's your director or an audience or other people in an ensemble. You might just feel like, oh, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stress. So we survived. More importantly, I survived. I think Ned would survive anything, but I feel a little bit more fragile when it comes to the busy social experiences. So now that we're home, we have another day off, another day before we go back to doing any performing, which is nice. It's nice that we're not in rehearsals and performances every day for 14 days straight. We get a couple of days off in between. So besides our time in Chicago to recharge a bit, we get another day or two here in Cleveland. So in the midst of this 2-week project, both Ned and a great friend of ours realized they needed to record things for auditions, and they needed to do it now to get them in by the deadlines. So this is another thing that happens all the time in this professional singing, choral singing, oratorio singing, concert work world. And that is that you are constantly sending off auditions, recorded auditions, or singing for people in person to get more work, because none of this is a fixed full-time job. It's contract by contract, and you're typically working with different ensembles or different organizations constantly. There might be some recurring projects where you know you'll go back and work with an organization every season, but for the most part, you are constantly auditioning, constantly sending stuff out, and either getting a yes or a no, or hearing silence, and then just questioning what's going on. So Ned and Arissa needed to record some music. Arissa was recording some musical theater pieces, which I thought was very fun. I love musical theater. I like to play musical theater, and Ned needed to record a Mozart aria. So we set up on one of our days off to do a little bit of recording, and I thought I would show you a couple little clips of that. And now back to our concerts. Concert number 4 took place at Lake Erie College in Paynesville, Ohio. And I thought this was a really beautiful campus. The leaves were just starting to turn, and I thought the music building, or this music hall, was really gorgeous. This was one of my favorite performances because we had had a few days off between the Chicago tour and returning to Ohio. So I think everybody felt more rested. I think people had fun with it, and we had let everything sink in and settle, I think, even more. So here I am, same sweater, getting a little bit of knitting in before the rehearsal. And speaking of knitters, another crafter in the group, Kathy, who plays flutes and recorders, all sorts of Baroque wind instruments, it was her birthday. And then we get a little bit of knitting from one of my singer colleagues, Kira. So I'm not alone in all of this knitting, which makes it a lot more fun, that there are several of us there, so we can all check in on each other's projects. We get to knit together during breaks or when we travel. So it's a great group of not just musicians, but musicians and fiber artists. Another fun element of this evening's concert is that we were on a college campus. So between our rehearsal and the performance, we got to have dinner in the dining hall, which I think was the first return to a dining hall for a lot of us, which was fun. So we walked through and you could choose, pizza or pasta or salad or hamburgers or cereal or ice cream, and people got a little bit of everything. And we had fun. We had fun in the downtime, getting to connect, laugh, tell stories, whatever at this point we needed to share with each other, because we'd been together for several days already. We'd performed the show several times, and so whether or not people came into the project feeling like they were connected with others, at this point, everyone was, which is nice. We've made it to the home stretch of this tour, just 3 concerts left, 2 in downtown Cleveland, and then 1 on the west side at Baldwin Wallace University. So I go to a little compilation of some of these rehearsal and performance clips, and then I'll hop back in to sum it all up. All right, we made it. At this point, it's a big feeling of relief and pride that you've finished it. You've done all of your concerts. You can let the music go. You can start to forget the notes or forget the memorization, whatever you need to make room for. And the whole project wrapped up with a party thrown by another one of our amazing crafters, Sue. Sue plays bass in the orchestra, and she's an incredible quilter and also a great knitter. Sue always tells me that she's not a great knitter, but she is. So she very kindly threw a party for everybody following the end of this kind of long, kind of meaty project. And I think it was a great way to wrap everything up. And now for my knitting wrap up. I worked on 3 projects throughout the course of this musical project. And the first was my Oban sweater, my Oban vest from Thea Coleman, which was finished at the very beginning of this 2-week period, which was great. The next is my mom's sweater, my mom's cardigan, which is Nordic Bloom from Caitlin Hunter, and that is almost finished. I did everything except for creating the buttonholes because I need to lay it out flat, do some measuring, do some counting to make sure I put the right number of buttonholes and the right spacing and the right size. I don't have buttons for that yet. So that's almost done. I need to do 3 or 4 more rows of a button band, and then I'll steam the button band and the whole thing will be complete. So I got a lot of that done throughout the travel days. That's what I took with me to Chicago. And the third project I was working on throughout the course of this music project was my Numi sweater. And as I mentioned, it's something I'm doing bit by bit. I really have to follow the chart. I'm still before the underarm split, so I'm still in the yoke of this sweater top down, and I've got I don't know how many hundreds of stitches in my round, so it's time consuming. It feels a bit like a bear to work on. So I got a little bit of that done. I probably finished at least 1 chart repeat during the rehearsals, picking it up and putting it down occasionally in the last 2 weeks. And the last thing I worked on towards the tail end of this music project was a bit of swatching. I did 2 swatches so that I could start projects over the next trip I needed to take, which started the morning after the final performance. So I needed to make sure to do my swatching, get things measured so that I could cast on and choose my sizing for the next projects I wanted to work on. And one of those is on the needles that I'll talk about hopefully soon when it's finished. The other is this baby swatch for Tea Time by Megan Babin. I showed Tea Time in my video where I'm talking about working with black yarn and gold sequin sparkle. So many of you have sent me wonderful recommendations, and I have plans and a list and all sorts of good ideas for what I want to pursue with those projects. I'm gonna make Tea Time to start. And when I swatched, it is dark, so it's a little hard to see on camera, but you can see the braided cable, you can see the twisting cable, and then quite a bit of lace, which I think will look really beautiful, especially with different colors worn under the garment. I've always dreamed of having a nice fancy light for my crafting whenever I would go to big box crafting stores and walk down the aisle with all of the good lamps and overhead lights. That was my dream. So I'm really grateful to Honeywell for providing me with this opportunity to work with such great lighting and flexible lighting. So with my dark swatch, when it came time for me to measure, I was able to swing my lamp over from the piano and have it at my workspace so that I could really get a close-up look, get my measurements, and see the details I needed in a darker yarn. And I know that as I work on this black yarn project, it's going to come in handy. This lamp also has extremely high color accuracy. The color rendering index is rated at 98 plus out of 100. So we're almost as high as we can be with the color accuracy. That means for my projects, I'm seeing the colors as they truly are, no matter how dark or how busy the texture or design might be. That's one reason why this lamp is a favorite among painters, crafters, quilters, and textile artists. If you've been looking to make your space a little more functional or just a little bit more peaceful, I can definitely recommend the Honeywell HWL-05D01 Floor Lamp. It's been a subtle but really meaningful upgrade to my workspace. You'll find the link in my description box in case you feel like checking it out. And again, thank you to Honeywell for being willing to work with me and for giving me this dream lighting situation that I've always longed for. So that's a wrap both on the Purcell production and my knitting projects and the updates for this 2-week period. I didn't do a ton of knitting. I was glad to finish the oben, and I was glad to get almost finished with the Nordic Bloom for my mom. I wish that I had been able to make more progress on my other project or crank some more knitting out, but it was busy. Every day we were called for several hours of rehearsal in addition to the performances, and then I was spending time with people and traveling, and it's not always convenient to knit, and I'm not always in the right headspace to pick up a project and keep going. So that was the real life balance of everything for a musical set of weeks in my life. And I hope you enjoyed getting to come along with me and go behind the scenes for some of that. As always, I really appreciate you choosing to spend this time with me. If you'd like to spend more time with me in other places, you can find me over on Instagram and Ravelry at makermarkknits. You can also find me over on Patreon, where we Zoom together. We Zoom together about 4 times a month. It's our virtual crafting group. So if you're interested in checking that out, the link for that is also in the description box below. Thanks so much for choosing to be here with me today. And as always, happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting to you. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.